I think it's important for you to sit down and take the time to look at your website critically. And when I sit down and do this with folk, usually what I hear from you is, I don't have the time to do this. If I'm really busy, I need to get my work done. I think it's essential that you take a quiet hour and sit down and think about your business. And if we do that with your website, what you might want to start off with is the process. Are you happy with your website? Does it do what you want it to do? So from how many service businesses like mine do you have here that you don't actually sell stuff, you sell services? We have a few service companies here. How many people actually physically sell things, widgets and things? They're my favorite kind of companies. That's great. And do we have .com companies here who are pure play internet companies? Do we have many of those here today? There aren't a lot of them around. We've got a few, but that's the kind of thing that generally we're not seeing so many of those nowadays. Excellent. So the first question you might want to say is the website doing what you want? For a service company like mine, I want inquiries. I want leads. And to be perfectly frank, I want the telephone to ring. How many of you want the telephone to ring? I don't want you to email me. If I get you on the phone, we can talk about what you need and I will sell to you. And likewise, how many of you have websites that you're actually genuinely proud of? That when you give somebody your business card and they look at the website, you know that they are going to be delighted with what they see. For some of us, and again, this is my case, I built our most recent website is about 3 years old. And to be honest, it's time for a refresh. So again, these are the kind of things, it no longer represents our values, it no longer represents all the services that we provide. And finally, what you might want to think about is, have any of you asked your customers what they think of your website? Do any of you actually talk to any of your customers? Please say yes. I think one of the most useful things that we can all do is actually ask a friendly customer, what do you think of my website? How do you think I could improve it? So to get that kind of feedback is invaluable. And this might form part of your overall marketing overview. But at that kind of health check on your website, these might form the foundation of the next steps that I want to talk to you about. Now, as we look at it, the next thing you might want to do is actually assess the design of your site. What I want to do on this one is go online and look at a real website. This is a company, I'm just going to use this purely as an example. It's a company called Green Energy 360. This is a company that will let you know which renewable energy is appropriate for your house. So what you do is you put in your postcode and it will calculate what wind speed is in your geographic area, so it will let you know would a wind turbine be okay. You let it know which way your house faces, north, south, east, west, and it will let you know, are solar panels appropriate? Is your garden big enough for a heat something? Do you know what I mean? So what it does is it will tell you which renewable energies might be useful for you, and then what they will do is give you a list of contractors who can install the appropriate technology. And that's where he makes his money. Does that make sense? It's a referral system that he lets contractors know based on the information I put into their website. Green Energy 360. I'm not trying to sell you anything, it's just a project we worked on. It's actually part of University of Loughborough, but that's another thing. Let's look at the design, and let's assume right off the bat that we like this design. Let's think positive thoughts first and foremost. Can anybody shout out anything that they like about this design?
Simple.
It's simple. What makes it look simple, do you think? Can you give me specifically what makes it look simple? What makes it look clean?
White background.
White background. So first and foremost, it is built using a white background. But because it's had a white background, does that mean it's not colorful? Tell me about the colors. How many colors are being used in this design?
Not too many of them.
Not too many. That's exactly right. This is called a limited color palette. And in web design, typically, you'll find in good web design that we're going to be using about 3 colors. The 3 colors here being blue and green, which is quite appropriate for this kind of company. And then it's using an accent color of yellowy orange in order to get your attention. Okay, what else might make it look clean and simple? Or what other things do you like about it?
The graphic is uncomplicated.
It's uncomplicated, and I think that has to do with the graphic. can you see it has quite a simple design on there in terms of the graphic? And have you noticed a lot of websites are using larger images rather than lots of teeny tiny little images? So I think computer screens are getting widescreen now, aren't they? So there's more capacity to design things that and doesn't the picture in a sense tell the story of what the business does? Yeah.
It pulls you straight into its main message.
And the comment here is it pulls you straight into the main message. And I think this site has been very, very well copywritten in terms of the copy, because what it has is what's called a very powerful call to action. What does this website want me to do?
Click the play button.
On the button it says, assess your green energy options now. It's using something called active voice. It's telling me, it's not saying click here, is it? If I were to look at any of your websites, how many of you have the word click here on your websites? I know how to use a mouse. You don't have to tell me to click. I know to click. Does that make sense? Instead, tell me the benefit of what I'm going to get when I click to go. Now that call to action is quite obvious. What makes a call to action quite obvious? The use of the color, because it's in the accent color. The position, have I had to scroll down to see that call to action? No, the call to action is what's called above the fold, which means everything fits before I've had to scroll down. So it has quite a clear call to action going on. It's using limited colors. Also, as we take a look at it, where is the logo on this website? Top left. As a convention, this is where people expect logos to be. Where is the navigation on this website? Across the top, isn't it? Where two places can navigation typically be on a website? Either down the side or across the top. There are places where people expect these things to be. And if we look at the navigation, it's conforming to a web design principle known as the rule of sevens. And the rule of sevens states our poor little brains can only cope with 7 choices at a time. Have any of you been on websites where there's 1,000 things in the left-hand menu? What do you guys think when you see the 1,000 things?
It must be a public stage website.
It must be a publicly funded website. You are unkind. Considering the fact Business Link is paying for this event, I think we ought to say, do we love Business Link? Too many choices confuses, confounds, makes people anxious. And a rule of 7 means you give me 7 choices. Can you see how many choices there are on that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 choices on that. You need to simplify your world. And then what you will say to me, how many of you do more than one thing? I do. I do consultancy, I do training, I do this, that, and the other. And then you'll say to me, oh, I do more than 7 things. I can't possibly organize my life into 7. And I say to you, if the British Library can organize the world's knowledge into 7 choices, we can knock your business into shape into 7. Trust me. Does that make sense? So we have 7 choices going on. That's the rule of 7s to see what's going on. Now, the other thing is, have you noticed that there's not a whole lot of writing on this page either? And the writing that's in there is in quite a special format that makes it easy to read on the web, and that is in bullet points. Do we read web pages? No. What do we do with web pages? We just skim through them and scan them, don't we? So using bullet points allows me to see, learn about your options, assess what's best, make contact with an installer, and get expert advice with no hidden agenda. What does this copy have to say? This is what's called benefits-led copy. Are they actually saying exactly what they do? No. Are they saying they were established in 1993 and there was a company management buyout in 2007? And you guys have that kind of garbage on your homepage. To be perfectly frank, do I care? No. What's the principle in marketing of what needs to go on your homepage? It's called the Witham principle. Have you all heard of the Witham principle? And the Witham principle stands for what's in it for me. And that's where I want to I want to find an installer and I don't want to get ripped off. So this copy is addressing my needs and telling kind of benefits that I have with using this service. Very carefully copywritten. For some of you, as we look at websites, you might want to think about that there are 3 different sets of skills that it took to create this website. The first sets of skill is somebody designed the layout. It's kind of like the graphic design, that they made something that just looks lovely. This is a graphic designer. The second set of skills is that you need a geek. And this geek is going to turn this design into an HTML web page that does the forms and has the JavaScript that works correctly. The cascading style sheets are fine. And does that make sense? We got a designer, we got a geek. And the third thing that we have is we have marketing going on. And this marketing, in this case, might be a copywriter who is writing lovely copy. We have search engine optimization going on, that we're getting found in Google. We might be thinking about pay-per-click advertising. 3 fairly distinct set of skills. Do we have web designers here today? Where are you? I know you're here. You would be right in front of me, typically. They always take the best seats, don't they, the designers? As a general rule, are geeks good designers? No. As a general rule, are designers very geeky? No. So can you see these are, and they're going to say, of course I am, and you're going to go, I know you're not. So what we need to think a little bit about is what sets of skills that you need in order to deliver this result. And it may be that you need to have different kinds of input to get the result. So I was talking about the rule of 7s, and the third thing I wanted to mention to you is a design principle called the rule of 3s. And can you see that this page has been designed into 3 sections? And you often find that many, many websites have been divided into 3 sections because it's easier to read chunks of information than to have your eye read all the way across the whole screen. Do you know what I mean? So chunking the information up is a device that you will see on lots, many, most websites. Classically, what goes in the left-hand chunk? This site doesn't do it. What typically goes in the left-hand chunk, would you guess? Navigation. What typically goes in the middle chunk? The content, the text. And what often will go in the right-hand column?
Call to action.
Might be call to action, but it might also be kind of like special offers or secondary navigation or little buttons, extra stuff that complements the offer that you're making. So dividing the site into sections to make it easier for me to look through